What if the very wisdom that awakens you also makes you impossible to love? Carl Jung would have called that a paradox of consciousness. There's a kind of woman who sees everything and pays for it with her peace. She feels a lie before it's spoken. She hears devotion that's only hunger. She recognizes manipulation disguised as care. And the more spiritually intelligent she becomes, the harder love becomes to find, not because she's broken, but because she's lucid. Carl Jung once said that awareness is a light that burns illusions, and most people are still in love with the dark. That's the secret nobody tells spiritually mature women. The moment you see love for what it truly is, you lose the ability to play pretend. Picture her at a cafe, watching a man speak with kind eyes and restless hands. He says he wants connection, but his voice trembles at the edges, the frequency of someone rehearsing sincerity. She feels it before she understands it, the subtle fracture between word and truth. She smiles gently, because she's learned what Jung warned, that to the unconscious, depth feels like danger. People don't fall in love with her, they fall in love with how they feel around her, until her perception starts to strip away their disguises. Then they call her too intense, too much, hard to love. But what they really mean is she sees too clearly to be fooled. And this is the unseen price of spiritual intelligence. You don't just awaken, you outgrow the familiar shape of affection. You can't be satisfied with half-truths once you've tasted the real. You can't crave attention once you've known presence. You can't chase validation when your soul now speaks the language of resonance. Jung called it the loneliness of consciousness, that subtle exile between knowing and belonging. Because when you understand the architecture of the psyche, small talk becomes unbearable. When you've met your own shadow, other people's masks lose their charm. So she retreats, not in bitterness but in clarity. She learns to love in silence, from a distance, like a witness. Because for her, love isn't an exchange anymore, it's recognition, and that recognition is rare. It requires someone whose soul doesn't flinch under truth, someone whose ego doesn't need to win. Someone who can look back and say, I see you, not the version that pleases me, but the one that exists beneath. Until that, she walks alone. Not because she fears love, but because she refuses its counterfeit. She would rather face solitude than dilute her awareness just to be adored. Because once you see what love truly asks of you, vulnerability, death of illusion, surrender of control, you realize most people don't want love. They want anesthesia. And a spiritually intelligent woman cannot unknow what she knows. In the next chapter, we'll explore how depth rewires desire itself, why spiritual intelligence changes not only who you attract, but what you can no longer settle for. What you think is attraction is often a memory trying to repeat itself. It isn't chemistry, it's recognition. Your body remembering who once hurt you and hoping this time, the ending will change. That's what Jung meant when he said the unconscious keeps seeking resolution through repetition. Until you see it, you'll keep calling familiar pain fate. Before awakening, desire is a pattern you can't see. You meet someone, and they feel right, not because they're your match, but because their wounds rhyme with yours. The drama feels alive, the unpredictability feels magnetic, the uncertainty feels like home. But once consciousness arrives, desire changes its shape. You start to feel the difference between being wanted and being seen, between excitement and anxiety, between intensity and truth, and you begin to realize you were never addicted to love, you were addicted to the feeling of chasing what never stayed. Imagine this: he texts you constantly, but disappears when you need quiet. He calls you mysterious, but gets uncomfortable when you stop explaining yourself. He says, "You're not like other women," and you can feel it's not a compliment. It's a warning. Before you would have tried harder, explained more. Now you just listen to the silence between his words and recognize the pattern. That's not rejection, that's discernment. Jung called this the meeting of the animus, the inner masculine within a woman's psyche, the part that holds clarity, direction, truth. When you start embodying it, you no longer chase it outside yourself. The men you once attracted lose their power to define you because what you were looking for in them now lives in you. That's how depth rewires desire. It takes you from craving completion to creating connection, from wanting attention to craving resonance. from being chosen to choosing consciously. And yet there's grief in this evolution, because you realize that many you loved were drawn to your light, not your truth. They loved how you made them feel, not who you really were. And once your awareness grew, the illusion couldn't survive the brightness. So yes, depth can make you lonely for a while. But it's not emptiness, it's recalibration. Your soul is learning a new language, one that not everyone around you can speak yet. When you finally meet someone whose nervous system doesn't flinch at honesty, you'll recognize it instantly. It won't feel like fireworks. It will feel like peace. That's the irony. Jung hinted at. Enlightenment doesn't end desire, it purifies it. It doesn't make love smaller, it makes it sacred. Because once you stop confusing chaos for chemistry, you stop searching for love in the places where pain once lived. In part 3, we'll explore what really sabotages awakened love, the hidden shadows, the inherited myths, and the subtle fears that make even conscious souls retreat from connection. Every awakened soul believes they want depth, until depth starts asking questions their ego can't answer. Love doesn't only illuminate, it exposes, and what it exposes first is you. The shadow is never a monster. It's a memory, a part of you that learned long ago that love is conditional. You say you want honesty, but you hold back your truth to avoid scaring someone away. You say you want connection, but you pick people you can't fully trust because safety still feels foreign. You say you're tired of one-sided love, but you're still drawn to those who need saving because saving feels easier than being seen. That's how the shadow works, not through malice, but through muscle memory. It keeps choosing what once felt familiar, even when it hurts. Jung said that people don't fall in love, they project. They meet the unlived parts of themselves in another body and call it destiny. That's why she keeps falling for men who are emotionally distant. They mirror her own hidden avoidance. That's why he keeps chasing women he has to earn. They mirror his buried belief that love must be worked for. And that's why chemistry so often feels like déjà vu. It's not the universe aligning, it's the wound repeating. Imagine this. You're sitting with someone new. They say all the right things, but your body feels slightly tense, like you're holding your breath. You don't know why. You just sense it, something rehearsed, something familiar. The same rhythm that once broke you. The shadow doesn't speak in words, it speaks in sensations. To heal is to pause in that moment. To not follow the script your nervous system hands you. To say, this time I will not chase what makes me anxious. I will wait for what makes me calm. And that's when the shadow begins to integrate. Not when you stop feeling fear, but when fear no longer drives the car. Most people think they fear abandonment, but in truth, they fear being truly met. Because to be seen means nothing can stay hidden anymore. Not the wounds you hide behind confidence, not the guilt you cover with caretaking, not the pride that masks your longing. That's why love feels like danger, because it threatens the illusion of control. The spiritually intelligent woman knows this. The deeper the intimacy, the louder the shadow. She feels the panic that says run. She feels the resistance that says don't need anyone. But she stays, she breathes. Because she's learned that running from discomfort is how we abandon the very love we pray for. Awakened love isn't peaceful all the time, it's precise. It will surface every unhealed piece of you that still negotiates worth. It's not drama-free, it's truth-demanding, and that's what makes it rare. So if you keep meeting the same kind of person, don't ask, why do they do this to me? Ask, what part of me keeps saying yes to this? Because that's where liberation begins, not in changing others, but in seeing yourself clearly enough to choose differently. The shadow doesn't dissolve when you find love. It dissolves when love finds your shadow and doesn't turn away. That's the kind of connection spiritually awake people are wired for, not comfort, not performance, but mutual revelation. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when two conscious souls finally meet, why it feels both terrifying and divine, and how real love begins only where projection ends. They say that when two conscious souls meet, it feels like destiny, but in truth, it feels like an earthquake. Because for the first time, there's nowhere to hide, no role to perform, no illusion strong enough to survive the light of mutual awareness. It begins quietly. You meet someone and there's no rush, just recognition. The air between you feels ancient, almost familiar, as if you've been circling each other through lifetimes, waiting for the moment both of you would finally be ready. At first, it feels divine. The conversations are effortless. No masks, no pretending. They speak your inner language. They understand the silence between your words, but soon something deeper starts to unfold. Because true connection doesn't flatter your ego, it confronts it. She starts to notice small things, how he withdraws the moment he feels vulnerable, how she analyzes instead of expressing, how both of them sometimes turn truth into theory to avoid feeling it.
They don't fight about dishes or messages, they fight about meaning, about tone, about why certain words feel like wounds, and yet beneath the tension there's clarity. Both know what's really happening. The shadow has entered the room. When two awake souls fall in love, their love becomes a mirror, not a fantasy, a mirror that shows everything left unhealed. He touches her hand, and suddenly her old fear of dependence stirs. She says something honest, and his instinct to control reappears. The old patterns knock at the door, but this time both of them recognize the visitors by name, and that changes everything. Because instead of running away, they breathe, they talk, they sit in the discomfort until it softens. That's the difference between conscious love and comfortable love. Comfort says, let's not make this complicated. Consciousness says, let's make this true. Comfort hides what hurts to keep the peace. Consciousness faces what hurts to build real peace. And that's why so many people mistake intensity for danger, when really it's the soul remembering how to stay open in the fire. Imagine this. It's late. They're sitting in the car. An argument just ended. No one's shouting, just quiet. The kind of quiet that could either heal everything or end it. She looks at him, really looks, and says, "I'm not angry, I'm just scared of being misunderstood again." He exhales. His voice softens. "Me too. I just don't know how to be safe when I care this much." And in that moment, no defense, no pretending, something sacred happens. The illusion collapses, the real begins, because love, when it's conscious, is not a fairy tale. It's a spiritual discipline. It requires two people brave enough to meet each other as they are, not as they wish to appear. It's the kind of love that doesn't promise perfection. It promises presence, the kind that says, "I will stay curious when I'm hurt. I will tell you the truth even when it shakes me. I will see your shadow and still choose to see your light." That's the miracle Jung spoke of, the union of opposites. When two individuated souls don't merge to escape loneliness, but meet to expand consciousness itself, it's not possession. It's partnership, not dependency, but devotion to truth. Two people standing side by side, looking not at each other, but in the same direction, toward the evolution of the self. So yes, when two conscious souls meet, the universe doesn't play a love song, it holds its breath. Because something holy is happening, two beings agreeing to grow instead of perform, to heal instead of hide, to love with their eyes open. In the final part, we'll explore what awakened love truly becomes, how it transforms loneliness into connection, passion into peace, and why the highest form of love is not possession, but recognition. There comes a moment when love stops feeling like a search and starts feeling like coming home. Not home to another person, but home to yourself. That's the secret. Jung spent his life pointing toward love is not about finding your other half. It's about meeting the half of yourself you once abandoned. Because when you stop seeking rescue, you begin to recognize resonance. When you stop chasing the one who understands you, you become the one who finally understands yourself. And from that wholeness, love changes its nature. It stops being hunger and becomes devotion. It stops being a need to merge and becomes the courage to meet. You no longer crave fireworks, you crave calm. Not the high of being desired, but the quiet of being known. Not a hand that clings, but one that mirrors your strength without dimming your light. Because now you understand what makes love sacred is not intensity, but awareness. Imagine this. It's morning. She's sitting beside him, sunlight spilling across the sheets. No words, no performance, just the simple awareness of presence. No one's trying to fix the silence.
They're both breathing in it. And that's when she realizes this is what she always wanted. Not someone to fill her, but someone to meet her. Someone whose peace matches her depth. She doesn't need to be adored. She needs to be understood. And for the first time, she is. This is the sacred form of love. Jung described in symbols, the union of consciousness and unconsciousness, the marriage of the inner feminine and masculine, the reconciliation of light and shadow. It's not romantic in the way the world teaches. It's quieter, slower, but infinitely more alive. It doesn't shout forever. It whispers, here, now, fully. Love like this doesn't ask for ownership. It asks for honesty. It doesn't need vows. It needs presence. Two souls who know that to love someone is not to lose yourself inside them, but to find yourself more deeply beside them. And that's the paradox. The deeper the self-awareness, the purer the love, because love is not what completes you, it's what reflects you. So if you've walked through the loneliness of consciousness, if you've outgrown the smallness of false affection, if you've met your shadow and learned to stay, then love will no longer frighten you, because you'll know real love isn't perfect. It's conscious. It's where two beings agree to grow instead of escape. And when that kind of love finds you, you'll recognize it not by how it begins, but by how it feels in silence. Steady, simple, sacred. Because in the end, the highest form of love isn't passion, it's peace. The kind of peace that comes when your soul finally whispers, I am home. If these words found you today, maybe it's because your soul was ready to hear them, ready to stop chasing and start remembering. So tell me in the comments, have you ever met love that felt like peace instead of chaos? Because that's the kind worth waiting for. And if you'd like me to continue this journey, to explore how to recognize real emotional intimacy, the difference between connection that heals and attachment that hurts, just write I want more. Because love, real love, deserves to be understood that deeply. Until then, be gentle with your heart. It's learning a new language, the language of truth.